the official Zoomcast of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. He's an American guitar legend and musical director for the Conan O'Brien Show. Hear untold stories from Jimmy and his musical guests. They will talk music, its influence, culture, and future on The Green Room with Jimmy Vivino.
When you say things about Bruce that I know only because of my association with you, did I get the honor of having an association with Bruce Springsteen. It was always that I felt like I was one of you guys, to him.
Oh, no
he
doubt.
always made me feel like I was at home with you guys. I don't know if it was a Jersey thing, if it was our talking about baseball, if it was just the music, the respect he had for you, that he respected me, if you did, whatever it was, it almost doesn't matter. It's just that I had been on a stage with him and you and seen him in action.
Many times.
Nothing is. You were the one that gave me the quote that when a Beatle walks in a room, it's presidential. That was directly from your head. I never heard it before you said it. Well, Bruce, it's the same thing. When you remember, we'd be on stage, like doing something with Bruce, waiting for him to come, and the minute he came, the atmosphere changed completely. It was no longer about anything we wanted to do or say. We got all that out of the way before he got there.
Yeah.
And then all ears and eyes.
It's like Gary Cooper walking through the saloon doors.
Exactly.
Everything stops.
Exactly. It's all those things all those movies and records, everything built up to this. And the funny thing is, when I first heard it, I said to myself, well, this sounds like Phil Spector produced Van Morrison. That was my take on the Born to Run album. It had such a Spector thing to it. And he reminded me of Van, and I had even seen Van Morrison, and Van would do those kicks and the drummer would hit. I think Bruce must have been a pretty big Van fan at some time. I think even the beginning of Rosalina, one of them, E Street Shuffle. It sounds like Wild Night, kind of, And I think that Bruce referenced records the way we do,
Bruce certainly is an amalgam. We all are, of everything we've heard.
Yeah.
He's been able to synthesize it and make it his own. It's like a meat grinder.
Yeah.
And it comes out, prime sirloin and hamburger. And it's pretty amazing, actually. And you've worked close enough with him. I mean, you're the only person I've ever seen to get him to do a piano solo.
Yeah, right. It was great, wasn't it?
That was amazing. You were like, take it, Bruce, and he was comping on the piano in some song we were playing at a Christmas show.
And he started playing like Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, he was playing exactly like it was amazing. No one had ever seen him do that. I don't think he's ever done it.
The funny thing is, when you're going back to that David Sanchez story about him playing that big introduction, every time, I would hear Bruce sit down at the piano and start playing. Remember the one night he did maybe Meeting Across the River by himself when we were doing some show, and I said, it's all there. It's all there. Those guys are just playing what Bruce played. He didn't say, here's the chords or here's the song. Bruce actually played that stuff on piano, I think on demos, probably.
Well, he writes on piano and guitar songs on guitar, piano songs on piano, and he's a pretty decent drummer too. People don't know. Well, seen that. He's a pretty damn good drummer.
At one time though, and I'll never forget when you called me and said we're doing some work on some demos, some old tracks that are unfinished. Gary can't make it.
Yes.
I suggested to Bruce that to have Jimmy come and play bass, and he said yes. Right? So thank you for that. Day.
You played bass on one of the great sort of holy grail of Bruce Springsteen songs, "Back in My Arms," which
Back in My Arms
don't play very often. Gary couldn't make, it was a winter, he couldn't make it up from Nashville, and we were all there, and he got snowed in or something. For some reason, he couldn't make it, and we had just, I think, finished the show. So I got on the horn, I called you, you came right over, and you picked up the bass and you played the bass on it. And
I saw also, see, that was getting an idea. You know that Bruce and Dylan work very much the same way, probably unknowingly. But Bruce will just take out that, he's got that, one of those old notebooks like we had in school, you know?
Composition notebook.
With the black and white sort of cover, you know? It's
you mean like this? Wait.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You have one. You remember he had a stack of those with him?
Oh, yeah.
And he was sitting in the control room just looking through, and we're all sitting around just waiting. And he finally puts his finger on one, and it was back in your arms, right? And he comes out, and he puts it on his music stand, and he just starts playing. And then you start playing. Roy starts playing. Danny was still there, God bless him, and Clarence. They start doing stuff, and I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta play. So I just gotta not know. I don't have to open my mouth and say, Bruce, do you have a chart, or what are the chords? You know, those kind of things bury you with a guy like that, I think. He just wants us all to... We need to pick it up and learn it in our heart and know it. And I just, never, ever had to do that before in my life. That was the first time. And it was so funny because he was fine with it, and we went back to listen to the playback, and it was good. I think we might have fixed a note here and there, but... I think that he's also like Bob, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. If he's good, the track is good. You can fix everything else. But he does it live. He sings and plays live.
Oh, yeah. Well, this last record we did was completely live. And first and second takes, he'd come in like Dylan, I imagine. I haven't worked with him, but as you say, he comes in, hear the chords. He plays his acoustic guitar, sings a little bit. Everybody now, actually, because of you, and working with you all those years, I know how to scratch out my own little kind of drum part chart so I can save time. And it does save time, actually. The other things, you have to go back and forth, I remember when we were still doing the TV show and I went back on tour in 99, I was still sort of in the, I was holding the stick, traditional, right? Military style.
Yeah,
sure. And I would, like that. And I was referring to bars or something, or some technical, not very technical, but slightly technical. And I got such looks from doing that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about bars or measures or, and then we did the first concert we did. I tried to play like, I was playing on TV, which was kind of a little more groove-oriented, jazzier style, right? That lasted about 10 seconds. I realized I just got to turn the stick over and, you can't...
Hey, Maxie, what are you doing back there?
Begin, And we got 3.5 hours more to go. And so it was funny. And you get a little ham-fisted, a little heavy-handed. Even horn players, when LaBamba and Mark would do something like that.
Yeah.
The Southside Johnny Hole notes, you get, your musculature gets a little muscle bound. Same thing with the drums.
You know what, though? It ain't easy. And the fact is that, and I'm going to get to this about musicians because of you and I. Now, when you guys had some downtime from the E Street Band, some in-between time, you and I made a record together called Killer Joe with Joe D'Elia. That we ended up actually, by the end of the project, it was really our record, yours and mine's. We ended up finishing it. Joe kind of, I don't know, he kind of lost interest or something, but it was left up to me and you to finish the record. That's and we had a ball, remember? We had a ball. We had such a good time doing it. And
my favorite thing I've ever done.
It's a great record. It really is. And it's called Killer Joe. That's the name of the band, and Max and I are in the band. It's Joe D'Elia's band. Again, all the way full circle for you.
Well, Joe, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Joe had a jump blues thing he was into, and I'd never played that particular thing, and he was really into the Louis Jordan and Amos Milburn.
Yeah, from Buster too, from Buster Poindexter, from David
Buster
Johansen.
Poindexter. Exactly. So
yeah,
you know, the Killer Joe record, and I was working with the record label, so I had to come up with something. And he was doing that, and I wasn't playing at all. And it was, you know, it was kind of like rock and roll. Well, of course it was. It was the precursor. And that's when you and I, you know, we did, the first time we actually worked together, other than jamming, was on the first Clinton inauguration, when we did that E Street Review thing. And you know, I didn't know you were such a...
I want to, my friend, I would like to correct you. You will remember this now. La Bamba had a Christmas show him and Steve put on.
I do remember that.
Right? And you were there.
I was there.
You were there. I was there with Darlene Love and Paul Schaefer, and I remember that. I had Steve Jordan with me. And there were two kits set up, and I asked you, and I said, Max, would you play with us with Darlene and Ronnie, you and Steve, the two drums, you know? Let's have like a double. Let's Hal Blaine and Earl Palmer.
Oh, I remember that.
And yes, and the both of you playing was unbelievable. That thing was, and remember, La Bamba had like 12 horn players. And we had charts, and we had singers. And Steven was playing, and I was playing, and Schaefer was playing, and maybe Dalia, maybe there was another piano player, maybe it was Danny playing organ and Paul playing piano. But that's when I first actually met you. La Bamba's Christmas show, I think it was at the Capitol Theater in Passaic, if I'm not mistaken.
It may have been at the Capitol or the Count Basie, but I'll tell you what.
Oh, it was at the Basie, Count Basie.
In Red Bank, but what I was referring to was, yes, I do vividly remember that.
But then later.
I remember asking Paul Schaefer to show me how to play. This was before Steve Jordan got there. How do you play the opening to the Letterman? You know, da 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 da. Right. He wrote it out for me, and but I didn't know. I knew you played guitar, but I didn't know anything about your arranging ability. And the fact that you're a musicologist, I knew you were, you know, obviously an excellent singer and a great guitar player, but the sort of that other element that I didn't, from that show, I didn't get that at all. What I got, the first time I saw that was when we started rehearsing that thing for, you know, the inauguration show, and you did charts, and it was Little Richard and Chuck Berry, and you suddenly, wow, this guy's really very broad in his ability.
We did two, didn't we, Max? We did two for Bill.
We did the 93 and the 96. That's right. We did both of them. And where
Johnny Rivers on one of them.
Johnny was on the first one. And, you know, Chuck was on his best behavior. Yeah. And it was fun. Richard? You know, obviously it was fun having Little Richard and Chuck in the same room and hearing them tell stories to each other. And, you know, they were both fairly young and healthy. And, but then I said, well, this registered that this guy's a professional musician. He can talk in, you know, I remember one of the first things technical that I didn't know what it meant was you talked about the contour of the arrangement. And I didn't want to show my ignorance. So I, you know, looked up what the word contour meant in relation to arranging music. And then it made sense, you know. After I read that, right? So this one, I said, wow, this is a whole other language. It's like learning, you know, a foreign language. And it was also, that was the first key to unlocking for me. You know, drummers particularly always have, if you read modern drummer, this anxiety about reading and playing charts, doing that thing. And I'd never had a reason to do that because I was always really a feel, you know, you want a cha-cha, I could play a cha-cha beat. I had ears. You know, and I just skirting along. But so when, you know, Jerry was in that band and guys who, you know, relied on charts and I saw, oh, I see now, this is how it's done. And then working when we did in the beginning, and I was such a neophyte, I was a true virgin in terms of being a professional musician, as opposed to being solely a band player, where the things that, you know, the reading, you don't have to read every single note. Suddenly it's a phrase, it's a sentence, then it's a chapter. And suddenly you're playing and you're reading 8 bars ahead. And
Yeah.
and you do that, I mean, look, we had
because if it's a map, right, Max? If you're driving a car, in the old days we had a thing called a map, kids.
well, if I can brag
Now,
on
if you unfolded the map and you're trying to drive at the same time, you're going to crash. But you got to quickly scan the map like a chart and know. You see, Tommy Tedesco had the thing I think that you inherently did without knowing. Take the gig and then learn how to do it.
Yeah, of course.
And that that's and you actually got to where you were reading. So.
Oh, I was.
But you could only read my charts. That was the problem.
And my charts are also. I realized, okay, I don't write correctly, but I can read everything I write, and that's all that matters.
That's right.
I'm not writing a drum book. I'm not trying to teach someone else to do it. Your charts to me, I can sight read those because I know you're arranging so well, and also your handwriting. And let me brag on you for a second because people know you as the guy on TV, of course, but the blues man, working with all these artists. But the level of the marriage of technical ability and artistry that you brought to what we did together and what you do actually bring to everything you do, the authenticity of it. I can tell people on the TV show, very, very often we'd have to, do stuff that, it wasn't exactly, if we had a choice, we wouldn't do it. But, and we went to battle a little bit. That was our job to back up, somebody who really, in our hearts, we couldn't really commit to backing up. And we did it. And we gave them the best of ourselves every time we did it. But you had this unique, and still do, of course, have this unique ability to take the soulfulness of the music you love and the music whether it be Broadway or blues or jazz or anything like that, and combine it with that real professional knowledge, and combine that with the knowledge of the history, where we were certainly soulmates in that. I didn't have the technical ability, but I was a good editor, and I knew, how, okay, this is where we want to end up. I mean, I had to know how to get there. So, and I told you this privately, but I should say it publicly, that in my life, I've probably had, apart from playing with the Bruce, you're the most important musical influence and compatriot I've ever had, without a doubt, from the jump. And that is, you go on TV and, I'm the smiling drummers. People don't understand the work and discipline that goes in doing that every night.
No. And I appreciate you saying that. And I've always felt that everything I lacked, you had. So the combination of us, the combination of us was the thing. And now I want to get to my recollection, and then you can tell me your recollection, okay?
Fair enough.
Because mythology as the years go by, the old telephone game, where by the end of the line, in the down period, I had worked on quite a few TV shows, and I got close with Clarence. Terry, God bless him, Terry would call me, who was Clarence's, Terry, he was a beautiful cat. Terry McGovern. He would call me and say, listen, Clarence has got something. He knows you're going to be there. And this is because I met him through you. So I already knew Clarence and he knew me. He knows you're going to be there. Can you get together with Clarence beforehand and help him learn the music he's got to play? Because Clarence was, like Hubert Sumlin and a lot of blues guys I knew, a heart-to-hand player. Yeah. You bring the head into it and it didn't work. Remember Clarence's eyes would go up when he was trying to memorize something? And it was beautiful. So, I would get, Paul asked him to be on like the 10th anniversary Letterman show. And I said, Clarence, you're Clarence Clemens. Paul wants you there to take solos. He doesn't want you to sit in the sax section with Dave Sanborn and Tom Scott and read. So don't worry. I talked to Paul. I said, Clarence, he's your soloist, right? He says, oh yeah, we don't want, yeah. So Clarence was, and then that happened a couple more times. I'd get together with him, and then he asked me to be in his band. So I kind of joined his band, and I was living in his house in Sausalito, and I got a phone call one day, and Clarence says, hey, Jimmy, it's Max for you, right?
I remember.
You say to me, I get on the phone, you say to me very quietly, Jimmy, don't tell Clarence, but I got an audition for this kid who's going to take Letterman's spot. His name is Conan O'Brien. I ran into him on the street, and I said, I noticed you from doing I forget whose show he did, Charlie Rose show. You were on the Charlie Rose show talking about doing your show. I'm Max Weinberg, blah, 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 E Street Band, whatever you had to do. Here's your father. Now you are your father, okay? The salesman.
Weeks I talked my way into an audition.
You are your father. Knowing what I know about your father, your father steps in, right? And helps us, okay? You call me and then you say, but I committed to an audition. You got to come home. You got to not tell Clarence about it, and let's put the band together over the phone. Let's talk. So we're all prepared.
Can't tell anybody about this.
Yeah.
You can't tell Clarence. You can't tell anybody about it, and none of the
don't tell anybody because there were
including
already
your brother
20 bands.
didn't know what it was.
There were bands all over New York. We're going to be trying to get this gig, and we knew that. And then we put our heads together. We got my brother and Scott Healy and Mike Merritt, who I knew. You said let's get La Bamba and Pender, and at the time we had Rusty Cloud also. We had an extra guy.
We had 8 people.
We had 8 people.
Jimmy, I just need to add to that story, which was just completely exactly as it happened, was I had this 6 weeks of meetings with, as you know, Jeff Ross, Robert Smigel, people connected with the show. Finally, to where I got a call from Jim Pitt, who was the music booker. I've been pitching basically, the Killer Joe record. Here's my demo, here's my thing, right? And they said, hey, we've really enjoyed the meetings. I remember I was at Music Masters at my desk. I got this call. We enjoyed the meetings. We'd like to hear the band.
Right. Then you called me.
I never told them I had a band. Never told them I had a band. This is my concept for a band. So this was Wednesday. When do you want to hear the band? The band. How about Friday? Yeah, that's guys have gigs. Can I get back to you? And I called him back. I said, how about Monday? He goes, all right, I'll switch some things around Monday. So you were the first person I called. You were Clarence.
Yeah, and then I left. I said, Clarence, I got to go back to New York.
Let me tell you, if you said, no, I got to stay here, I don't think it would have ever happened. Because I knew I needed...
Well, it might have been different. Different. You would have made something happen, Max. I know you would have.
I probably called Joe DeLeo.
But I knew you well enough at the time and the way that we worked together that we could do anything given a day to put it together.
Which is almost what we had. We had about 12 hours to literally...
Here's where our showbiz, you especially, we talked about earlier, we're coming full circle to showbiz, to Ed Sullivan, to you probably, and I never listed him, but I'm sure you saw The King and I. I'm sure you saw My Fair Lady. I'm sure you saw The Music Man. I'm sure you saw Fiddler. All the great shows. You saw them. You, like I, saw the Rockettes on stage. You heard the drummer kicking when they kicked, I mean, we had all of this. Everything that built up to us built up to this gig. Now, when you say to me, and I'm in the back of my mind, I'm saying, is he going over the top? You said we gotta have lights, okay? We gotta set up in a sound stage and invite Conan and Jeff Ross and Jim Pitt and whoever else was there. Maybe that was just the 3 of them, and we're gonna rehearse. And we're going to have a program that goes bang, 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 bang. All right? A mini set of like 4 songs that we put together. 5 songs. 5 songs, all excitement. All excitement and rocking, rocking in that. And we were going with that jump blues early, like Louis Prima and Louis Jordan sort of feel, and some New Orleans records that we loved. So, Yeah, we did it. We put the charts. I put the charts together in like 2 days or
So
something.
you and I I remember this vividly. You and I got together Sunday morning. The audition was Monday at 2. We got together Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, just you and me. They had told me in the meetings the kind of things they wanted. They wanted a cartoony sort of song. They wanted, they didn't want any blues because G.E. Smith played blues. They didn't want oldies because Paul Schaefer played oldies. They gave me all these notes of what not to do. And this is actually a pretty important part of the story. So quickly, I was like, all right, we need something like, the Warner Brothers thing. And the way we worked together, you came up with this line, which became Unopening. Yeah. And which we were hoping, once we had the gig, that would be the theme, but that wasn't the theme. But there were different genres. There was a cool Hubert Laws thing, fluty kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you suggested doing a second line, New Orleans thing. And I really resisted because I didn't want any association with a hard, heavy beat. I wanted it to be very different. It was my running away from my rock background. And I taped it that day, that Sunday. I recorded it on a little cassette, which I still have. I played it for Becky, and I played her the first 2 things, and it was all right. And then the third thing was this second line thing, which became, I forget the name of it, but it became a thing we played a lot. Yeah,
and Rusty Cloud was very instrumental in that. Yeah.
I played her that, and she said, "That's really good." And I said, "No, I don't want to play that. It's too much like rock." So
listen to your wife.
Well, yeah, exactly. So the next day is the audition, and they had been auditioning everybody at SIR, which was the typical sort of 70s, the big padded room. And I said, no, this has got to be, there's only one place we can do this, Carroll Studios, which looked like an old 50s TV studio. It had the red, the white and green, the black and green linoleum tile, the acoustic board on the walls. And I got a little stage. And I still have the bass drum head that the record company, Becky sort of designed it. The record company graphics person made it. It just said Max. And I told everybody to wear the loudest Hawaiian type shirt they could.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was Conan, Jeff Ross, Robert Smigel, and Jim Pitt.
Yeah.
And so nobody knew Conan. Nobody knew who he was.
There was this big shy kid with his hands in his
tall
pocket.
guy with red hair. So because I didn't want it, if I didn't get the gig, I'm thinking me now. If I didn't get the gig, I didn't want it to get out that I auditioned and didn't get it. So I didn't tell anybody what was going on. I just said, I told you, and you kept your mouth shut. I didn't tell any of the other guys. So we do the first 2 songs, and they're listening. And then I said, well, we got to do something. So I start that second line beat, and we go into that song. And that's when Conan got up and started to do his crazy dance.
That's right.
And that's what got us the gig, was that song, that New Orleans thing. And
by the way, kid, there's your Saints Go Marching In first song you ever played again.
Isn't
that funny?
40 years earlier. It's exactly right.
Isn't that funny? And also, you had a thing that I later learned. I learned a lot. First of all, my work ethic improved under your demands. Okay, my list. I had a list by my piano.
Intense.
There was a list, a checklist, and of things that you wanted us to get done. And I somehow pulled it off with not thinking I could. Also knowing that you don't, if an intro's not exciting, screw it. Get into the meat. You got 5 seconds going out and 5 seconds coming in. Make those the most exciting, because you remember, like I do, about the Tonight Show. You didn't hear this little piano thing going on unless it was the end of the show.
Right, that little tinkling. But
it was about, and it was slam it, hit him over the head with it, man. And all of a sudden, and you recall this, all the jazz snobs. Well, these guys aren't world class players. They're just a glorified bar band, but they're pretty damn good, And to me, that's the highest. Being a bar band is the highest compliment you can pay me. So, you know.
What the East Street Band is, you know, we're Jersey's bar band, basically. That is a bar band. You know, it brings back so many memories of things that we did that we're just making it up on the spot. And, you know, this vision I have of you, I'd open the door. You didn't even have a desk. You were writing on top of a Fender Rhodes on the plastic part, your charts.
Yeah.
We had this little rehearsal room. And, you know, you'd be in there and you'd be writing charts like people would write letters, just the stream of consciousness. And, you know, I always said the things that I liked to do on TV, you didn't. And the things that I couldn't do by far, you knew how to do. It was a fantastic symbiosis.
Yeah, but also as a natural arranger, you would say, you know, we need, it's cool, we'd play through it. And you were very much like Buddy Rich, where it was like, okay, let's play through it. And then you would learn it like that, you know, because you had to, you know. But then you would say sometimes, you know, we need something going up here, something happening. Here, there's too much of nothing happening. And I would say, and I would fight it sometimes. And then I would say, well, maybe it's not about, you know, this is about, we're a new thing. This band is a new thing. So you can't always go with tried and true laws of arranging and say, well, you don't do that, you know, because we have a rock and roll pedigree to pay, you know, that really everything we do. We're not jazz guys, you know, and we're blues and rock and roll. Right. So all the laws are broken in those two idioms, you know.
Jazz itself, I'm not a jazz drummer. I just played one on TV.
There you go.
You know. I'm not, of course, nobody is, but my persona was, I'm going to be the Buddy Rich with this. We used to joke about it. The smile, you know, smile.
Of course we
did.
You know,
I probably took it a little too far in terms of intensity at times when we were first starting out. But, you know, it's a crucible. TV is a crucible.
Well, it worked for GE, didn't it? You know, it worked for him. It really did. And G.E. Smith was the model for that. And everybody wanted to know that that it was G.E. Smith, what he was playing. He was going and mugging in the can, whatever he was doing, you know, it was a new idea, you know, from
well, it was a gimmick.
That came from.
It was a gimmick, you know, and with the drums and everything. And, you know, it was just a fantastic experimental lab every day. And I have often told people in the, you know, since then, you know, it was the great, did you like doing that? I said, it was incredible. It was extremely pressurized, very political, but I had for 4 hours a day, I had the greatest musicians basically at my disposal so I could get better. I mean, there were charts we worked on for 6 weeks before I felt comfortable to play it in public. And somebody else was paying them. You know, even, you know, that's my father. Somebody else was paying the band that was making me sound good. And
well, you know, it's funny though, because all the showbiz stuff even goes into your. And I mentioned this earlier. There was an introduction I did for you, so I want to make sure that I mention Hawaii 5-0. I must, because it's so funny to me when I see you playing that guy on. Who is that? Who in your family are you being when you play that guy on?
Well, I wrote a narrative. It's about that guy. I wrote like a 3-page history of Norm, who he was and how he ended up in that gun shop. And when I was asked to do Blue Bloods on this recurring character, who was basically a crooked Queens, New York real estate developer, I did the same thing. I don't know if you ever saw
the same guy. Yeah,
well, not the same guy, but I did a narrative of.
Oh, a narrative. You make a story
of like where did he come from, right? And and it affected how. The reason I did this because Steve Van Zandt told me in the early when he didn't get Tony Soprano, he wasn't even going for Tony Soprano. He wrote basically a short story about Silvio Dante. Like where he came out of, and the Four Seasons are in it, and you know he wanted to be Frankie Valli, and of course, Frankie Valli wanted to be Frank Sinatra or Bobby Darin or whatever. But
yeah.
So we wrote this narrative about who the backstory to the character. So I did that on these 2 TV shows, and it really does help because it puts you in the, you know, in the character set. I'm not an actor. I mean, sketch comedy, and this is like real acting with no cue cards. That's hard. That's really hard. Really pretty impressive the way people do that, and they were very kind in, you know, in letting me do that. But it was something I'd never done. You know, nervous. I could tell. We could talk for an hour and a half on that, but.
Well, no, I just wanted to talk about it because it was great to see that. Well, you know, that it was recurring, because that means it was successful. That means that,
I like that character. I mean,
yeah, that character was success. And it's funny you mentioned Steve. We haven't talked much about Steve, but he and I are so kindred in a way that we both probably put bands together for the same people. Him first. When he had moved on to Bruce, I inherited, you know, Benny King, you know, Darlene Love, Ronnie Spector. Just, you know, all the people that Steve had already done that. I was like following in that way. And I think, and it's funny, the first time I actually met Steve and Gary, they came to see an Uncle Floyd show at the Bottom Line, and they were standing back against the wall. Gary was a huge fan, you know, and Steve too. So I met them for the first time, and I said hello, and they got into a limo and went over to Umberto's, you know. So, but Steve, I didn't know that, first of all, that Bruce was half Italian, and when I finally met his mom years later, I could see that, and I didn't know that Steve was really an Italian kid that, you know, was adopted, I believe, into a family.
Well, that's incredible. They're both deeply Italian with Dutch names. Yeah,
and now I know that's what's incredible. And then they were like best friends, you know, and it's funny because I'd spoken to him and Johnny, you know, Southside Johnny, who was a very important character in my life and probably yours as well, too. Sure. You know, and he said, yeah, I remember you guys. You had a band. I remember your band. Johnny was talking. He says, yeah, me and Steve were out, you know, trying to promote our records. We'd come into the Stone Pony playing my record, and you guys would come in playing dance music, and you'd get more money and get hired more often than we were. And I was like, yeah, because I never thought about being an artist, you know. I don't know if you ever did. I just wanted to read that record and say who was in the band, who arranged it, who produced it, where was it recorded, you know, and I want to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
You know, so that was...
I looked at myself I always tried to look at myself as a craftsman who did it artfully. And as a drummer, a young drummer coming up, going back to that, who had to go out and earn money. I couldn't do it as a hobby. I had to bring money home because of my parents' financial situation. That was, and the way to do that is to give the leaders like Herb Zane what they want.
Yeah.
So essentially, Herb Zane, and the same thing with Conan, you know, I told Conan, I don't know who you're going to choose, but I'll tell you what, you choose me, I'm going to give you the best band on TV. And
you did. And it went on, you know, you left it in my hands, thank you. And it went on in the same tradition. And we'll always be like best of brothers. In my, you know, the best of brothers can fight like nobody in the world.
As Bruce says in that song, Frankie Fell in Love, 1 and 1 are not 2, 1 and 1 are 3.
Yeah.
And you and I together, in the way we approach that, as the hilarity, the at times you know, what went on in that band room, that's a TV show. They used to do that segment, the band show. If they had ever filmed what we actually all did, all 7 of us in that room, the hilarity. When I tell you, you know, you remember, you know, somebody will start, and I'm sitting back because, you know, I would point to the bass drum, my name's on it. I was probably overbearing, and I wasn't probably overbearing. At times I was. I felt I had to bring the sort of the pressure that creates a diamond at time, that turned that there was so much potential, but it was a different scene. It was TV. It wasn't, and we had no time.
It's all understood. In retrospect, Max, it's all understood, and nothing to. There's no apologies necessary in our success. I'll tell you that. I will say this: you were almost like the father with a car full of boys saying, "Don't make me pull this car over."
Well,
I
was.
Yeah. Because it can easily, and I learned this too from you, it can easily get out of control. There can't be 7 opinions on what the final outcome is. Okay,
there can be 7 opinions. There can't be 7 decisions.
No, okay, yes, there will always be opinions are allowed, but the decision,
that was a real collective effort with first among equals in a sense. I was the focus, and I became after. Andy left a little bit of a weird chemistry sidekick.
Things I would never do that.
Oh yeah, well that was the thing. I was the guy that would do anything. I know you didn't want to, do some of those crazy things. I was fine with it. So I've had several. I've had 2 in my life, fantastic partnerships. Becky, my wife. Of 47 years, we've been together, 44 years. And you, as a musical partner, I only exclude Bruce from that because while we're partners on stage, he is the boss. And it's that. But you and I working together before the other guys came in, particularly in the early days. And okay, I got our marching orders from the head writer. Here's what we need. We had a shorthand. I couldn't have done it myself. I don't think anybody could have been replaced. It was hard enough when we ended up. If you remember the first 6 years, I wouldn't let anybody not do a show. There were no subs.
No. Listen, it's Rob Petrie walking in, to tell Buddy and Sally what was happening, what they needed to do that day. It's things we knew about show business and loved. That we knew, you went to a meeting, you came down with a list of things, and we had to go, man, and we had to do it, and we had 2 hours to do it in before the band, all the arrangements or whatever we had to do before the band came in to run through them. I think those guys were called at maybe noon, and you and I were there at 9:30 or 9. I don't know when the hell we could get there.
They came in later at 2:00. They went on the clock,
and it was very much like. Self-expression today is the thing. Baseball players today, if you want to wear chains and you want to wear your hair any way you want, but you had a vision that, no, this is the way the band looks, on stage. This is the band on stage. I don't care what you do in your regular life, but that was part of that whole, we got to have lights. I said, we got to have lights for an audition? That's what I'm saying to myself. What's wrong with this guy? He was right. Okay, so you were right. And you say, we all got to dress a certain way, Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I want this gig. And not only do I want it, I want to keep it. And bands don't keep shows on the air. We helped them gain altitude, obviously. And, fortunately it kicked in the third year and a half. 3.5 years.
Oh, we were on the block constantly.
Man. And I'm 70 now. It's a young man's game to a large degree. But I'll tell you one of the most impressive things, which I think your listeners would appreciate, is suddenly Tony Bennett decides he doesn't want to use his trio or quartet. He wants to use us. And not only does he want to use us, he wants to do 2 songs, and he wants to do the first one like Tony Mottola. So Tony Mottola, who of course was the great, or Bucky Pizzarelli.
Tonight Show guitar player.
So right, you name those guitar players to somebody under 40 or 50, they wouldn't know the style. No. So he wanted to do this first song with just I think it was White Christmas. I think
It was White Christmas.
just with you, and this was
Wait,
thrown.
no, Max, no notice, right?
No
he
notice.
shows up. He shows up.
Right.
We had the other car, Christmas in New York. It was going to go into, right? I think, right? And then he on stage at the rehearsal, he says, "Just me and the guitar," right?
That's right.
Luckily, I wished I had an extra pair of underwear in my dressing room. Because
you went into that Westmont, you nailed it.
Just
like immediately.
Assimilation is half the battle.
Well, that history wouldn't have been able to do it, but he
No, and I wish I don't even have. I wish I had that on tape. You probably have it. You are the guy. By the way, folks, aside from Max, he saved everything. He saved. I don't know where he keeps it. I don't know if there's a warehouse somewhere in Jersey.
I have a warehouse actually full of stuff. It's getting ridiculous, but the second song, I have played with a lot of people in my life, right? It was the most nervous I've ever been backing up Tony Bennett with our band and playing with brushes. Conan Cameron was his drummer at the time, and fantastic drummer, just an unbelievable drummer. And when we got done, they're still applauding. He leans over to me and he says, "We should take this on the road."
Yeah. See, I mean,
it was the greatest.
Pete, there's so many of those moments. Playing Shaft with Isaac Hayes, at the day Al Green came and played with us. It goes on. Remember the time with McGuinn when we, and that was early on. That was early on, and we,
Roger McGuinn.
I think.
Hey,
I think we did turn. Yeah.
Oh, it's funny because I've been during COVID. One of the things I've been doing has been putting that collection in some sort of order. It's between video. I have digitized everything, and I've come across unbelievable things where Tom Jones had his own band, and we did this incredible. We worked up just for the hell of it, in case he would agree to do it. Exactly the song Delilah.
Yeah.
And we recorded it, no audience. And it sounds exactly like the record. Scott had every part. We had the horn parts. And there's a number of things we did like that. However, I think my favorite performance was Sleepy LaBeef.
Oh, wasn't it? Strange Things Happening.
Strange Things Happening is we had one microphone for all of us. And it was, I'm telling you, if I have a list of everybody we played with, and it's impressive. Literally a couple of thousand other, at least 1,500 different acts. And, we could go on and on talking stories about stuff that we both were there witnessing. One of my favorite.
I remember we played with the Allman Brothers. They played on the stage and we played on our stage.
Yeah.
And we played together.
Yeah.
And of course, it's just. Well, before we wrap it up, it's just I want to. Inquiring minds want to know: is there communication within the E Street world about a future? I know there's a new record that's out. With things loosening up, is there any way I could come and see you guys sometime, or is that too secret? I know with the secret world, Well,
actually, I'll tell you. I'm asked that question quite often, and of course, we want to play, and I'm sure we will at some point. There's nothing being planned at the moment, and with Bruce, it's always been literally, if you can believe it, both on a need-to-know basis, and when I need to know, I'll know, right?
Yes,
it's always been like that from day one, and. I always liken it to the fictional town in the musical Brigadoon, where
it appears
every 100 years.
Man, this has just been great. I the best times. No, people wouldn't believe if you put that list together of who we played with and ever published it. They would not believe it. People will say to me, and I won't even remember And you mentioned a few, and I say, my God, there was 1,000 probably.
There was
over
absolutely.
all those.
And it's something for everybody in the seven of us to be very, very proud of, and what you did, carrying on the tradition, to be extremely proud of. Tastes change, times change, but it's all there, and it was there every day we did it, and it was a full experience. And in life, if you can have a full experience at something that is never boring and engages every sense, where you're joyous, you're angry, you're confused, you're bitter, whatever, all those emotions that make you feel alive. That's what we had, and I think we contributed. In the end, I think we really did catch the end of the golden age of television. Certainly late night television, and I'm very proud of it. And there's a couple things I'm certainly proud of. Obviously being with Bruce and the E Street Band all these years, but playing with you guys, it's right up there with it. Right up there.
Max, walking into Rockefeller Center every day. Okay, so there. And also, by the way, they still can't unload the Sinatra house down in Palm Desert. Did you read that? I thought you might pick it up.
That's true. That's true. They it was a bed and breakfast. The one in Palm Springs is a sort of an Airbnb. The next edition of this, we'll tell everybody about the time you and I went up to Tavern on the Green to go see Frank Jr.
Oh yes.
And told them we had
great, right?
And that was very funny. I must tell you
fun. Well, we got to sit down to a plate of pasta and a glass of wine together again. It's our thing, Nothing like it. Where we go? Cafe Cello's gone, I think. I don't know.
It's gone. We'll. I don't get up to New York too often, but I'm playing actually at the City Winery, June 17th, the new one downtown over by Chelsea.
Oh, okay.
Piers. But I think I may have told you this. I've told it a few people, but about 4 years ago. No, when was it? It was 100. It was in 15, so it was 6 years ago now. The Sinatra family did a road show, basically, of panel discussions to celebrate Frank Sinatra's 100th birthday, and I was invited to go along. And it was a gas. It was, Nancy Sinatra, Tina Sinatra organized it. It was Frank and a couple of them, and Amanda. Who is Nancy Sinatra. Of course, Nancy was there. Nancy Sinatra's daughter, Frank Sinatra, is one of his two granddaughters. And I don't know if I told you the story, but I think your podcast viewers and listeners will enjoy it. So she told this story during these symposiums. We did one at Yale. We did one at the Paley Center, a couple of others. And they were great fun. And she told the story that when cell phones first came out, she got a cell phone, and her mother, Nancy Sinatra, cautioned her, like all parents did back then, don't give your number to anybody, only call me. We don't know about this. I'm worried about it. And she was at boarding school. She goes to boarding school and she has her phone. One night, the phone rings, it's on her desk. Her roommate picks up the phone, hello? And she goes, Amanda, it's your grandfather. And so Amanda picks up the phone and she said, Grandpa, how did you get this number? And there's a pause. And he says, well, sweetie, I'm Frank Sinatra.
That's
so what else needs to be said?
We can't close with anything better than that.
Well, Jimmy, I love you very much.
I love you too, man. It's really, really great to reconnect. Really great.
Well, we never were unconnected. We were just miles apart.
Family is always family, right? Family will always be family. That's
Listen, I'm your Jewish brother. What can I say?
That's right. That's right.
All right, man.
And you know more Italian people than I. Forget it. We get into it. We have a whole nother world of things to talk about. But
we'll do another show. But Godspeed, my brother, and
thank you so much. And just love to everybody.
Play it straight ahead.
All right, man.
So
Later. Sign off.